Hello, everybody, and welcome to Virtual Bourbon. My name is Steve Akley, and we have a fun evening event here tonight. We have our Flagship Whiskey series, the latest edition of that. These are always fun and well received. Some of the most favorite things that we do is our Flagship series for sure. And as usual, we have a very strong lineup. I'll introduce all of our individuals in just a second here. Normal format here, we'll run through and introduce everyone, and then we'll start back at the top. I'll introduce everyone in the order that we'll be going this evening. And then once we do that, we'll go through, interview them individually, and then we'll taste the whiskey, and then we'll move on to the next person. We'll do that through all four people. We encourage you guys to please provide nosing notes and tasting notes. The nosing notes, of course, come first, then the tasting notes. That allows to get some feedback to our distillery representatives, and allows to be a very participative session. Please stay on mute, but we will bring you guys open at the end, and you guys can ask questions. We save time at the end where you can do that. We do have a hard stop of 90 minutes. Of course, I stick around after that, answer any questions, talk whiskey, whatever you like, and our guests can stay if they like, if they have time, but we do like to respect their schedule, and the official time of this event is 90 minutes. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce all of our distillery representatives first, and then we'll go through and start talking to them individually. Up first, out of Eugene, Oregon, from Heritage Distilling, Justin Stiefel, the founder and distiller of that company. Hey, Justin, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good deal. Good deal. Looking forward to talking to you. And you and I have a little bit of a history. We go back a way, so we'll talk about that when we start talking to you in just a second here.
Great.
Next up is Pete and Vienna Barger out of Southern Distilling Company out of Statesville, North Carolina, and they are the co-founders. How are you two doing this evening?
We're doing great.
Wonderful. Happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can't wait to learn more about what you have going on, and of course, try that whiskey. Our friends at High Bank here, I'm going to introduce in a second, gave us a little bonus whiskey tonight, which we like. It's never a wrong answer to have more than one offering. So, yes, we found that we can, when someone sends more than one, people are fine with it. They're okay. All right. Next up, from High Bank Distillery out of Columbus, Ohio, we have Adam Hines and Rudy Akley. How you guys doing?
Very well. How are
Very
you?
well. Very
Good.
well.
Good. Can't wait to learn a little bit more about what you guys got going on, and of course, taste these two offerings that you've got for us. Should be fun.
Absolutely.
All right, and next up, from Black Button Distilling out of Rochester, New York, the barrel blending program manager, Alex. Is that Hunnell? How you say that?
Hunnell, actually.
Hunnell. Okay, that was the initial idea, but I thought, it seems like it should be fancier than that, so that's why I went to Hunnell. But okay, if I got a 50-50 chance, more than likely I'm going to get it wrong. It's just how
Close enough.
Yeah,
There's worse things you could call me. I'll take
I get it. Yeah. So there you go. Good to meet you, and can't wait to hear about Black Button. It is a company we've had on before. We know them a little bit, but it'll be fun to talk to you and find out what you guys got going on these days. So should be fun. All right.
Absolutely.
With
Thanks
that,
for having me on.
Sure, absolutely. With that, we'll circle around to Justin Stiefel and talk to him about his company, Heritage Distilling. Hey, Justin, how you doing, man?
Great. Thank you for allowing me to be here with this group of experts in the craft space. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fun. These are fun events because we certainly enjoy learning about, the companies and your history and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, you were in the first thing that I ever did in the world of bourbon. I wrote a book called Small Brand America, and you were part of that. So I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. The fact that when nobody knew who I was, you still were willing to talk to me. That's pretty cool.
Likewise.
So tell us a little bit about how you got going with Heritage. How did this company begin?
It started for me when I was 6 years old, watching reruns of MASH on TV. And if you remember that TV show, they had a still in the tent. And as a 6-year-old, I would ask my dad, "What is that?" And he described it to me, and I became enthralled with the process. So I built my first still in 7th grade, and I got an A on that project. And I went on to study chemical engineering, and I went to law school. And when the laws changed here out west in Washington State about 12 years ago, we picked up roots from Washington, D.C., where I was working in the U.S. Senate, and moved back to our home state of Washington. And we put the business plan together, started the company, and we're here now celebrating our 10th year of operation.
Nice. Well, congrats on that. That's a big deal for sure. So as you're doing that, you're working in the Senate, a lawyer, all those things. In the back of your mind, were you always like, at some point, I'd like to, start a distillery, or was that just too far out of the realm based on the laws and things like that at the time?
In most places, it wasn't really legal, and
Hmm.
so my wife and I talked about a brewery, about a winery, but the market for those just continued to not be right at the right time, or started to appear saturated to us. And the idea of a distillery did not really pop into my mind as a legal commercial enterprise, is what I would say,
Right.
until those laws began to change. Certainly, we saw them change in Oregon in the early 2000s. Washington State was on the forefront at one point in time. There were more distilleries in Washington than any other state. California and New York followed quickly to relax their laws to allow distilling to become legal, and those states now, by population, are leading the way. We're seeing more pop up across the country, and it's exciting. It's exciting to be on the forefront. We still think there's a great 20 plus years of runway ahead, simply because the consumer is telling us that. We are watching the collapse of beer in real time.
Hmm.
We are watching the meteoric rise of hard seltzer now come down to earth. And I tell people all the time, the only thing hard about a hard seltzer is actually trying to drink it. It's because when you fake a cocktail with beer or sugar as the background, it doesn't really yield to good results. I've got a lot of friends who are in the beer business that make beer, and I tell them beer is for quitters, because if you really wanted to finish the job, you'd put it through a still and make whiskey. And so that's the route we chose to go down. And we've got two distilleries. We run one in Washington, one in Oregon. We have 6 retail tasting rooms between Washington and Oregon, and we have a facility you see behind me, a co-branded facility owned by the Chehalis Indian tribe, first ever legal distillery in Indian country in the history of the U.S. And we had to go back to Congress in 2018 to get the federal statute that prohibited distilling in Indian country lifted, and that statute was put in place by Andrew Jackson in 1834.
Wow.
And so we worked with the Chehalis tribe on that and got that up and running during the middle of COVID, and to great success, and excited that we're starting to see the fruits of that work
Yeah.
going forward.
Looking back, doing this for a while, and being an early adopter to get in, one of the first in the era. Do you feel like, as you reflect on that, like life might have been easier than it is now, or was it more difficult as these laws are just starting to change and turn where you can do these things?
Well, certainly it is not easy even today.
Hmm.
We face a double whammy. We face a increasingly competitive landscape for the attention of distributors. And I think anybody who is on this call who is running a distillery will agree that the consolidation in the distribution space has made it difficult not only to grab attention, but to also get the ability to get shelf space. And that is a challenge. You've got to really figure out how to have your brand and product stand out to get that attention. Secondly, costs are going out of control for many parts of our business. And
Hmm.
most of us still on this call are not at the scale that we can benefit from real pricing power and negotiations, and a lot of forward looking contracts for raw inputs and ingredients. And so those costs continue to apply pressure. Lastly, I would say that spirits is still kind of the redheaded stepchild of the alcohol biz, in that our friends in the beer and wine space have almost total freedom to do what they want when it comes to direct to consumer in many respects. And yet we are still held captive in most states to try to navigate to get direct to consumer, like our friends who run breweries and wineries have. Wineries can ship to 44 states legally. Legally, you can only ship to 9 states distilled spirits. That's starting to change a little bit, but that creates a challenge. And I tell our partners in the distribution side all the time, if you would support direct to consumer for spirits to ship to more states, it is good for you as a distributor, because if I'm shipping a product that a consumer wants to try in another state, first, they don't want to pay the 20, 25 bucks to ship it through UPS or FedEx. People hate that. When they get the product, if they like it, they will go to the liquor store. They will ask their liquor store to find a way to special order it. That creates distribution, pull through. And to the extent you can begin to build that demand in that next zone or territory or state, consumers are not going to be buying online anymore because they can go down the street and buy it. And that's really where the focus needs to be, on direct to consumer. And we're facing right now canned cocktails in most states are still treated as a full-fledged spirits product from a tax perspective and a placement perspective. So in many states where spirits cannot be sold at convenience stores, cannot be sold at grocery, they are being restricted to the traditional liquor store space. And the full-fledged spirits tax is being applied on the can, even though in many respects these canned cocktails are 5, 6, 8, 9% alcohol, and they sit right on the shelf next to Truly, which is in a 22-ounce can has twice as much alcohol, twice as many alcohol molecules in it, or it's next to the White Claw Surge, which is an 8% alcohol product, or it's sitting next to the really hoppy IPA or double IPA, which is 9.8% alcohol. And so we have less alcohol in these canned cocktails, and yet we're being taxed at 2, 3, 4, 5 times the rate to the consumer. And when we go and when I testify for the legislators about this, the biggest voice against bringing tax equalization to canned cocktails are our friends in the beer industry, because they do not want to fight on a level playing field. And I say, I want the consumer to make a choice based on product that they want, not based on tax policy. So that is the nearest kind of short-term battle we're facing as distillers who are in the craft cocktail space in cans. And I think anybody here on the phone, on the Zoom call, who is interested in getting access to really interesting craft-made products, regardless of where they come from, regardless of the state of origin in the U.S., they should be going to their state legislators and asking them to treat distillers like wineries so that they can order product to be shipped to their home legally in their state. And secondly, they should be advocating for equality in tax policy between beer, wine, and spirits so that the consumer can, again, choose based on product selection, not based on tax policy. Yeah. That's my ask of the folks on the Zoom call today. You are the folks that ultimately you can go ask your legislators to do that at the state level.
Absolutely, and should be so for sure.
That's my preaching for the day. On to the whiskey.
All right. You have one of the most rare situations in the distilling industry in what you did with brown sugar bourbon. So it's a product that you launch, turns into a huge thing, nationwide distribution. It's well known, and ultimately gets sold off. How does the story of brown sugar bourbon start? How did all that come about?
Well, we were approached by a retailer to make some flavored whiskeys, and so we lined up 10 different flavored whiskeys that we made in-house, benchtop level. Started to sample them, and that particular product, brown sugar bourbon, of the 10 flavors that we were working on, rose to the top immediately. In the craft space, we deployed quite a few guerrilla tactics on the ground, and the best story I have for that is it was Christmas of that year, was December. So I made up some bottles of the recipe and I put blue tape on it with a question mark, and I gave it to friends who I knew were going to holiday Christmas parties. And I said, put this on the bar at the party, because everybody comes to parties, drops off bottles of whiskey, wine, or whatever.
Right.
Put it on the bar, sit back and watch, take notes. I want to know what happens. I want this anecdotal response. I want the gut consumer response. Well, what do humans do when they see something that is mysterious? They got to know what's in it. So people
Right.
would go over, pick it up, pull the cap off, smell it, has a fantastic nose, pour a sample, drink it, and all of a sudden it becomes the hit of the party. You got to go try this. You got to go try this. And the buzz kind of goes in there. That told me we had magic in a bottle, because that response was so immediate and universal. We then took it to our local distributor and said, let's start to put this out. And it grew over the course of 2 years, and it grew phenomenally well, to the point where at retail, we were number 2 in the entire flavored whiskey section at retail, behind only Fireball. And if anybody in the phone here or the Zoom knows, Fireball is the king of the flavored whiskey category, 8 million cases last year. So to be overnight, to shoot up at retail on Nielsen and IRI data, to be outselling all the Jack Daniel's flavors, all the Jim Beam flavors, all of the flavor profiles, and be behind Fireball and actually catching up to Fireball was pretty significant. And so that's when we got approached by a bigger distribution partner, ramped that up, started moving it out into more states. And then, we got a call one day that there was a desire from someone in Hollywood who had been given the product and sampled it, took it to his own parties, and people loved it. And we got a call one day saying, hey, we'd like to have a chat. So again, it's got to be in the bottle. Once you make product and it leaves your distillery, and it goes out into the world, if the product does not meet the expectation of the consumer and doesn't create that kind of emotional, compelling response, you're never going to get phone calls like that. The product has to speak for itself. And so we were fortunate enough to have created that product. And now we are focused on our new product we call Cocoa Bomb, which is a chocolate whiskey. And that started to get out the distribution. And people ask why chocolate whiskey, and it's because 80% of Americans consume chocolate at least once a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a flavor profile that, Americans will naturally gravitate towards.
Yeah. So, question before we talk about the chocolate whiskey, and then ultimately you get ready to taste it here in just a minute. So, tell me a little bit about what it's like selling off a product like brown sugar bourbon, because it continues to be a big success. As the person who started that, is that give you satisfaction? Do you have to kind of not pay attention to it because it's like, it was mine, now it's gone? What's the personal feelings when you sell something like that? That, like I said, continues to be a great success, and I know you'd want that to be a success when you sell something off. You don't want it to crash and burn. You want it to do good, but what does it feel like on a personal basis?
If you are in business, ultimately everything is for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to enter business realizing that your business has certain assets. And if you're going to continue to grow, you need to convert those assets into fuel. And so you create an asset, and then you decide what is the appropriate thing to do with it. Now, we have a new line of products that we're getting ready to launch, our super premium aged whiskeys that are 100% grain selected, mashed, distilled, fermented, aged in-house, all with very particular special steps we employed over the last 10 years. That is going to carry a brand that we likely won't sell because it's attached to the family. But what is the American dream? The American dream is to come up with an idea, put the idea into effect, and have it capture its own legs and achieve success. I mean, that is ultimately what we all want, all of us who have endeavored to be entrepreneurs. And as an entrepreneur, the easiest thing to become an entrepreneur, to enter the space. The hardest thing is to figure out how to be an exitpreneur. And not enough people talk about that. How do you convert your entrance into an exit? So we're very proud of making that product. It won the world's best flavored whiskey 2 years in a row by Whiskey Magazine in London. That has never happened before, to have a back-to-back winner in that category, which is a testament to the recipe and what we put in the bottle.
Yeah. All right. I'd like to ask my group now to go ahead and start nosing the offering that we've got coming up here. And we're going to have Justin tell us a little bit about it, how you came up with this, and what we were getting ready to experience here.
Well, the other folks that are on this Zoom that are in the business of making whiskey, they are making traditional approaches to whiskey, which is a very difficult space to enter. We are doing the same thing, but between when we opened and when we thought our whiskey might be ready, we needed other ways to engage the customer. And so for us, the obvious choice was to enter the flavored vodka space and the flavored whiskey space. So when you enter the flavored whiskey space, I am looking personally, what do I want to drink? What do I think the friends and other folks want to drink? And what is a versatile product? Having a product that is only consumable as a shot limits the usability of it. So when we set out to make Cocoa Bomb chocolate whiskey, we wanted to have something that would have a beautiful nose. And when you smell the Cocoa Bomb, the first thing that should hit you is chocolate, because we don't use any artificial ingredients. If you can't pull it out of the ground, pluck it off a tree, or otherwise harvest it, we're not going to put it in our products. It's got to be natural. So the first thing to hit you is chocolate, but not some artificial Hershey's milk chocolate with a bunch of sugary stuff. We want a real cocoa nibs, real dark cacao. We wanted all of these things that when you close your eyes and think of high quality chocolate, you would capture that. Now, the beauty of the nose on this is if you treat it like a brandy and you put it in the brandy snifter, add a little bit of heat, that nose explodes and it creates an even richer experience. I can't tell you how many people who are Scotch drinkers. They only drink Scotch and the very particular styles of Scotch, and they turn their nose up not only to American whiskeys but to flavor whiskeys in particular. When they smell the Cocoa Bomb and they take a drink, they will have 100% conversion where they say, "I am now a fan." And I think it's because the combination that's in Cocoa Bomb is the same feel, flavor, and texture you get when you've had a beautiful Scotch and a cigar. The combination of the Scotch notes with the tobacco really is what is happening in the palate with Cocoa Bomb. So that's the reaction I want. I want to surprise and delight. So if you're not getting chocolate on the nose, then you're probably still suffering from COVID.
You might have grabbed the wrong sample, maybe.
That's right.
So let's give this thing a taste. Cheers, gang. Wowzers, that's delicious. It really is.
Now you got to give it a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If you give it about 30 seconds, it will continue to travel down the palate, and you will continue to have different chocolate elements evolve and develop and become present on the palate. And that's one of the beautiful things about this is it's not too sweet. It's just sweet enough. There's no artificial flavors, and you can really taste the different elements of chocolate that you might envision if you went to a chocolate factory and you saw the raw chocolate, the cacao, the powder, and those things. So that in and of itself makes it really sippable. Put it on ice, and you can sip it even more. It makes fantastic whiskey cocktails. So an old fashioned, a chocolate Manhattan. Now you no longer have to put the sugar cube in and muddle it. You have everything you need in there to make a different type of whiskey cocktail, bourbon type cocktail, rye cocktail, because there are some pepper notes in there that allow you to broaden the horizon and create additional layers and depths of the cocktail tasting experience just by substituting, traditional whiskey for this Cocoa Bomb. So we think this is a special product, and we're really happy with it.
Yeah. And the notes out here are confirming that Cocoa Puffs, fall off the floor, chocolate milk on the front. Not a flavored whiskey fan, but really like this. Hot chocolate shifts to milk to dark chocolate. Yeah, definitely a lot going on here. Very good stuff, and ice cream topping. Yeah, I agree.
It'll change your life forever. That's what I tell people.
It's very good, very good. All right, Justin, what we'll do is we'll ask that you please stick around for the Q&A at the end. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for all the comments too. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, Pete and Vienna Barger out of Southern Distilling Company, Statesville, North Carolina. How you guys doing?
We are fantastic. Great to be here tonight.
That's good. That's good. Tell us a little bit about how you guys got started in the business.
A lot of similarities in our story and Justin's story. We've got a family farm, and we were wanting to do a family business on the family farm. We both had careers. But we wanted to do something together, and we wanted to drive some income from that property. We really started looking at doing a winery and a distillery on the farm. And after about a year or so of due diligence, we were scratching our head going, okay, now show us how you can make money in the wine business. And, everybody kind of laughs. The old adage is, how do you make $1 million in the wine business, racing business, et cetera? Well, you start with 20 million and you might end up with $1 million. So,
right.
The thing though that was really intriguing at that point was just how scalable the beverage alcohol industry was. I'm from North Carolina. Vienna's from Southern California. We both went to school in Northern California back when Anchor Steam and Sierra Nevada were just tiny little family companies getting a start. And we just loved that energy and what they were doing in the brewing space. But by this point, it was mid 2000, say 2008, 2009. We could see that there just wasn't enough air left in the room in brewing. We didn't want to be in wine, but like Jason, we had some legislative changes happen in North Carolina, and it opened up the doors. We liked the trajectory, and so we kind of jumped in with both feet. We thought we were going to buy a nice little 500-gallon pot still and put it in a barn. And first thing that we did was we went to Kentucky, and we made a lot of friends in Kentucky. And we hired a lot of folks that had been, or we brought them on board as consultants, I should say, that were ex Jim Beam folks, Brown Foreman folks. And, they all kind of told us the same thing. It's like, if you want to do this, you really, the way that we wanted to do it, we wanted to build a regional, if not a national brand. They convinced us we needed to go at a different scale. So we built a much larger distillery than we had anticipated. And so that design process, I guess we bought this property in 2012. We established the company in 2012, 2013. We worked with our good friends at Vendome in Louisville and put in one of their first 18-inch stripping columns. Lit the fuse on that late 2016.
Okay. How did you? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I chime in. I'm just going to add, in addition to that time we spent in Louisville, we spent time learning from other folks in the industry. In fact, I spent a little time out at Justin's place with the Artisan Distilling Institute for a week, asked lots of questions, learned a lot of things. Also spent time in Michigan, spent some time in California. So asking lots of questions, doing the due diligence, asking folks what they would do differently, as this industry really was just getting started back at that point, 2012, 13, 14, really helped inform us in what direction we wanted to go.
I think that we attended the first ACSA ADI meetings, way back when. And, so that was really exciting to be a part of something that was so early phase.
Absolutely. So as you're learning the business side of it, were you also learning how to make whiskey? Because it's something that wasn't in your background, right? So you have to learn how to utilize this still that you're going to be
So yeah, we certainly did. So, I'm a mechanical engineer by training and had built lots of manufacturing plants, understood process engineering pretty well, had a background in thermodynamics, et cetera. So I understood a lot of the concepts on the technical basis, but as this is a blend of art and science.
Yep.
So I had a great grasp on the science. And, we see one of the exciting things about this very traditional industry is, we take the tradition and the art, but we're also able to innovate and disrupt and, do some things differently, bring in new ways of thinking. And that's one of the things that the craft space has really done. But more to your question, we worked really closely with folks that knew a lot more than us. Folks, Dave Shurek, who was with Woodford and really built that plant and developed a lot of the small batch process that we employ today. He was right beside us, and then several others. Now, here's the thing, we're a small company. We don't have investors. We're bootstrapping this thing. These guys are with Brown Foreman and Jim Beam, and everything is really big, and there's infinite budget for everything that they do. So we were able to take a lot of their ideas and a lot of that tradition and couple it with some different ideas, different technologies, more innovative processes, and really put together something that we think is pretty, unique in the space. It was more unique, say, 5 years ago than it is today. We see lots of that sort of scale and innovation today, but 5, 10 years ago, it was a little different in the space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and what's it like visiting your place today?
So we sit on a 20-acre campus. We're just about 40 minutes north of Charlotte, but we located here because we wanted to be close to grain and we wanted to be close to get rid of spent grain. So we're right outside Charlotte, but in the country, so to speak. On the 20 acres, we have a 35,000 foot primary distilling operation where we run 2 Vendome columns. We've built 2 24,000 barrel rickhouses on the site here. We're completing our final rickhouse now on this site. We're finishing up a nice little event center. So it's we got some donkeys out front. We try to keep it agrarian. We try to keep it rural. We don't want it to look like a manufacturing plant. And, I think we've been able to strike that balance. Our biggest thing right now is we've got to build we're building a secondary distillery. So we're putting in a much larger Vendome column here. And we're going to take a lot of that stuff off site so we can kind of keep the appeal of what we've got going on with the original site.
Okay, very nice. So we've got two offerings from you. It looks like we're going to be trying your rye first. Tell us a little bit about that whiskey.
So it's called double rye because it's a blend of two separate mash bills. So, the thing that you either love or hate rye, I think, most people don't just kind of, it really draws, some emotions. I think one of the things that puts people off with rye is that a lot of times it's an acquired taste because it can be so powerful, peppery. We really wanted to produce a rye that was much more approachable. So we took a very high rye mash bill, a 95.5, and then we took a low rye, a 5139.10. These are well-known mash bills in the industry. We produce them separately, different cooperage. We blend those back together and then finish these for 6 to 18 months. Really, it's done when it's done in a freshly dumped bourbon barrel. So that's the double rye recipe. That's kind of how we get it. But again, it's definitely a rye. But it's again, it's a little more mellow, a little more approachable. I really like drinking my whiskeys neat or on the rocks. Not a huge fan of cocktails, but I really appreciate this in a cocktail, an old fashioned in Manhattan.
All right, and let's give this thing some nosing notes here. A couple of them coming in already. Soft rye bread, honey on it. I was going to say, to me, it's very crisp on the nose and kind of a little bit of apple in there as well. So that's pretty good. Let's give this one a taste and see what we think here. Cheers, gang. Oh yeah, that's very nice. Very pleasant, nice drinker. Lots of good flavors going on there. That honey bun comes through on the taste as well.
This
cool.
product is between 4 and 5 years old out of the barrel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Little bit spice at the end. It sticks with you, which is nice too. So the finish is very nice, kind of lingering, which is good. What else are you guys thinking as you taste this first offering from them? So how did you come up with the idea of doing this sort of high rye, low rye blend?
How did we come up with that idea?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think it really started with that we had an inventory of 95% rye, and being bourbon fans around here and having that be really where we put the weight of what we do. We weren't sure exactly what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as Pete said, it's, you're going to have that love-hate relationship with rye whiskey. And so we worked through lots of different options on how to soften it up a bit and make it more accessible. And this really just ended up being the best recipe. Not only did we work with that ratio in blending, we worked with the time we were going to leave it finishing in those ex-bourbon barrels. We also worked on how we were going to set the proof. So as we take any of our products into bottle, we'll produce them every 2 points from 80 up to 100 or even 100 a little bit plus, and taste through them and decide where they like to be and where they live the best. So this one ended up at 88.
Very nice.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And early on in our process, like most folks that are getting started, we had to source product, right? So we sourced a lot of MGP 36 high rye bourbon. And somewhere along the way, somebody made us a killer deal with a bunch of 95. And so we had all this 95. We're like, what do we do with it? And again, that was kind of the problem. This was the solution. Now today we phased all the MGP out. So this is our product going in here now. We're at that point in the evolution, but that's how we got to it. We still do a lot of ryes. We're getting ready to release a heritage rye for a brand that was very popular on the East Coast. That came out of Central North Carolina back in the early 1900s. But that's a 5139.10. So we really gravitate more towards those more mellow ryes. It's just, one of the nice things about being a founder and owner is that, you get to make what you like. So obviously, we're running a business, so we got to speak to the market. but we like to think that the market likes what we like. And a lot of times they do. And this happened to be one of them.
Nice. A couple other notes on this one, and then we'll talk about your weeded bourbon here in just a second. You've got citrus said a couple times here, which is interesting. Spearminty, and then Ed from Bourbon Obsessed says orange citrus, anise, rye spices in the nose, becomes sweeter in the taste with the rye spices and citrus growing in the finish. And I think that's an excellent wrap up there, Ed. I like how you phrased all that. That's good.
Steve, one other thing I'd like to add on our double rye. This is also a partnership with a nonprofit organization that's headquartered here in Statesville, North Carolina. It's called Purple Heart Homes.
Okay.
They're a national organization, but they were founded and based here in Statesville. And we share half of our profits on this double rye product with Purple Heart Homes. They do housing rehabilitation adaptations for aging and disabled veterans. And it's a really fun partnership with us because since they are here, we get to do other things with them. They have a bike ride fundraiser coming up that we're getting to host on site as well. So we get to really learn more about their mission and help them to grow as we talk about double rye.
Yeah, so
incredible.
real quick on that, give these guys a little shout out. It was founded by 2 disabled vets, and what they're doing is they're going in and rehabbing homes to make them accommodate the vets that have the disability and make sure that they've got the homes. So we're proud. 50 cents out of every dollar goes back to this group. But what's really cool about this partnership is that it is a partnership. So often we look at writing checks, et cetera. We actually were able to bring a group of their staff and the people, their clients in. And when you look at our tasting notes, they wrote the tasting notes. So we brought them in, we kind of showed them what a flavor wheel was and walked them through the process. They spent a day with us, and by the end of the process, they had gone through the tasting process, and I think just did a great job. So often we get hung up in the flowery language, the great adjectives, and it can be a little intimidating. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is art, and art and beauty are in the eye of the beholder, and I think that really comes through in the words and the tasting notes that these guys produced.
Very nice. Yeah, great work, and sounds like you guys are doing some good things. It's that perfect combination of being able to buy something that you enjoy, and then also help promote a good cause. So congratulations on something pretty special here. All right, if I could ask the group here to start working on some nosing notes on the weeded bourbon, as Pete and Vienna tell us a little bit about it.
On the Paragon, I said, are we moving to the Paragon?
Yes.
All right. Paragon. All right. So this is a weeded bourbon. This is a mash bill that most of us know and most of us, I think, love. So it's 70% corn, 16% wheat, 14% malted barley. So of course that's makers, wellers, and a host of everything in between. Again, we get the opportunity to make what we love. I love a weeded bourbon. Back when we could get wellers, that was my daily go-to, and I wanted to make something that was a nod to wellers. So we use that mash bill. We use a proprietary yeast. One of the things that I do want to point out about our operation is we're fairly vertically integrated. So we go through about 40,000 pounds of grain every day. Of that 40,000 pounds in this particular mash bill, 86% we grow. So we've got about 5,000 acres of grain in production. All of our corn, all of our wheat is grown within 15 miles of our facility. We're working on the rye. Hopefully next year that comes in. But this product, I was a little worried that maybe I made a mistake early on. Everybody's laying down, rye, secondary grain bourbons. We're out here in North Carolina laying down lots of weeded bourbon.
As the first thing that
Yeah.
we're putting down.
And everybody's like, well, we don't really understand that. Well, I was like, well, maybe we're wrong, but it's what we want, it's what we like, it's what we want to do. For those of you that are in the production space that have done weeded bourbons, it can be finicky. It goes through what I'm going to call a really bad teenage year, maybe terrible twos, whatever you want to call it. So, when this product gets to be 2 or 3, it really doesn't taste great. It's
Yeah,
grassy. It's
better at 6
it's
months than it did at
underdeveloped.
2 years.
And you're like scratching your head going, man, have we really made a mistake here? But about year 4, it begins to come out. And by year 5, I like to call it, a great contributing citizen in society. And that's really kind of, that's what it is today. So we release things when they're ready, not by, an age date or anything like that. And so we determined that this product was ready when it hit about 5 years of age. What you're drinking right now is this particular batch of bottled bonds, about 5.5 years in the barrel before it went into the bottle. Little shameless plug here. We entered this into the New York Wine and Spirits competition. We won a double gold. We were thrilled with that because that's one of the few competitions that we really think does a great job with the judging. And, it's a double blind competition. We learned last week that this product won best in class, best single barrel, 10 years or younger. It also took best bourbon overall out of
Wow.
the selection.
Very
So
nice.
that's not too bad for a little unknown company out of North Carolina.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's give this thing a taste in just a second. Fresh bread, pear, brown sugar. Talking on the nose here. Orange, brown sugar, getting that a couple times. I wrote rich caramels and vanillas, so some classic notes. So let's see how we do on the taste. Again, cheers, gang.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, that's again really nice. Great mouthfeel. Kind of get a little citrus in there, little that note, sweet. So you certainly get a nice sweet drinker there. Again, little bit of spice on the end, just a touch of that. Very, very nice. Drinks easy, sweet and fruity. Touch
So
of a hug.
this-
Yep, I agree, Brian.
This particular product, the Paragon, is available in 3 different expressions. So we have a standard that's available at 92 proof. The Paragon Bottled and Bond is obviously what we're enjoying right now. That seems to be the crowd favorite. Paul Picoult gave this a 95 point score. The product that took the double gold at New York Wine and Spirits was our Bottled and Bond cask strength product.
Single barrel.
Nice,
Single barrel, yeah.
Yes.
nice.
Sorry, cask, yeah.
Well, excellent. We appreciate you bringing this to us, and please stick around to the end and be there for our Q&A. Okay.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Talk
guys.
to you in just a little bit. All right. Next up is Adam Hines and Rulix Alexif.
Anything you got for me at this point is standard delicious.
All right, fair enough. With High Bank Distillery out of Columbus, Ohio. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are
Doing
you?
great, doing great.
Very good. Tell us a little bit about High Bank. What do we need to know?
Yeah. So High Bank, we're out of Columbus, Ohio. We started in 2017. So we've been making whiskey since 2018. We opened up our doors in May of 2018. Products that we're going to be drinking today are born out of, similar to some of the different things that I've heard from the other distilleries. Whiskey War is a blended product. So we make our own bourbon similar to Pete and Vienna. We started with wheated bourbon. I love wheaters. I think they're delicious, and that's just what I wanted to make. So Whiskey War is a source product. It's 3 different mash bills that we source. Two mash bills from MGP out of Indiana, and then another mash bill out of Tennessee to come together to be blended in our own proprietary blend to make Whiskey War. The reason why we did that was to allow our bourbon that we make in-house the proper time to actually age. I'm not a fan of young whiskeys, young bourbons. So I didn't want to do a stair-step approach that many craft distilleries do of releasing a 6 months and then a 12-month and an 18-month and kind of stair-step into where you're going. And so Whiskey War was created out of love. And then it ended up being just a killer product that we've done very, very well with, and has become a passion that I never knew that I had, which is blending and manipulating flavors and all of that. So
I thought you were gonna say passion for drinking, but then you just skipped over that.
yeah, well, that's there too.
Okay, that's
there too.
So what was your background prior to getting into this industry?
Yeah, it was a natural transition. I was a graphic designer that started making whiskey.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, right. That's how it happens.
So again,
I got a good transition too.
yeah,
We have a good one.
yeah. This is a pastor.
So I was a pastor.
Okay.
So former pastor, former art design. So just get right in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we yeah, I mean, it's again, I resonate with a lot of things that Justin said and Pete and Vienna said, especially when he was more on the engineering and the science side. I am way more on the artistic side. So that's what I've discovered with blending whiskey is the manipulation of flavor is so much fun. And when you can take pre-made batches, pre-made recipes that are already out there and start bringing them together and blending them into a unique thing that nobody else has done before, it's fascinating. And for me, it's less about the science then, and it's more about the experience. What is the experience from when they grab the bottle off the shelf to when they're pouring it in the glass to when they're, enjoying it with friends? It's that creative aspect to it. So, and it's done well. I mean, we were blown away back in 2021. Our Whiskey War Barrel Proof, which is the second one here that we'll be drinking, won Best Blend of Whiskey in America at San Francisco World Spirits Competition. And then it hasn't happened in like 5 years. In 2022, we won back-to-back Best Blend of Whiskey in America. No category has won back-to-back in 5 years. And so we got a call even from San Francisco. It's like, who are you guys? Because we're just out of Columbus, Ohio. We're only distributed in Ohio at the moment. We are about to go into Kentucky. We'll be there Q1 of next year. And Illinois and Michigan soon after that. So we are starting the Midwest, kind of expansion aspect, but it's been pretty crazy and it's been pretty awesome.
So you got 2 wins in a row in San Francisco. If you get a third, you win platinum, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Correct.
You got to win.
So
So you got a big year coming.
actually,
You got a big year coming up, right?
We actually won 5 double golds this past year. We won it for our vodka. We won it for our Whiskey War Barrel Proof. We won it for our Whiskey War Double Oak, which you guys are going to taste here first. We won it for our Midnight Cast Barrel Proof, and then our Barrel Select product that we have. And so, yes, correct. If we for our green label, if we win double gold again, we'll win platinum next year.
And then if you win again, they give you a unicorn. They bring a horse that is a unicorn.
Nice.
That's if you win 4 in a row.
That'll be good. Yeah.
We're hoping for that.
But it's even interesting, when we started, we're a distillery focused, but we have a large restaurant as well. And it was just to continue to chime in on how the industry has changed in the last 5 years. When we started this concept 8 years ago, when we were just in business plan phase, we were a brewery. Because in Columbus, Ohio, and in Ohio in general, the distilling laws are horrible. They still are not awesome. But in 2017, there was a law that changed. Up until that point, you were not allowed having a restaurant attached to a distillery. It was illegal. A distillery could serve they could serve 4 1/4 ounce pours of alcohol. So you could serve 1 ounce of alcohol at your distillery. That was it. It could not be in a cocktail. It could not be, in anything like that. So when that law was changing, and when we were originally this brewery, my background, even though I'm a graphic designer, my dad's lived in Louisville, Kentucky for the past 16 years. My passion has been whiskey collecting and visiting distilleries and all that stuff, never knowing that was going to be a future career path, of mine. And so it was through that law change in Ohio 5 years ago that allowed us to create a restaurant that then attached to this distillery, because in Ohio, that's really become the next craft movement. Back in that time, 7 years ago, there was about 8 distilleries in the state. Now we have 72. So it's been a very large growth pattern here in our state.
Okay. Well, if we could get the group to start working on some nosing notes for the double oaked, if we could have you guys tell us a little bit about what we're going to be experiencing here and what goes into making this particular product.
Yeah. So double oak is, kind of the child of barrel proof. The next one we're going to drink. So barrel proof is kind of the father of all these different products that we create for our Whiskey War lineup. And what double oak is we take our barrel proof, we blend our barrel proof at between usually 4 to 4.5 years is our age statement. And then we will second oak this. We'll put this back into at full barrel strength at 116 to 118 proof, go back into a brand new oak barrel. And it lives in that oak barrel for another 6 to 12 months, just depending on the season that it goes in. And again, it's all about flavor. So once it hits about 4 months, we're tasting it every month. And then we'll get to a point where we're tasting it every other week, and then every week until we get to a point where we want to launch it. So Batch 5, what we have here is just over 5 years old is the total age statement on this one here. And yeah, so you're going to get a lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel on the nose. Rudy's way better at this stuff than me as well.
You know, when I hit the double oak on the nose, I get that like sort of like almost like a softwood, almost like you're sort of walking towards a wood pile, you know, like as you're like sort of like maybe you're on your way to like maybe start a fire, so you're like walking towards.
Gotcha. Oh, they locked up. Okay, they're here. There.
Sorry, you gotta try to get that dark spices coming too, right? So you're walking towards the fire and you get that sort of like dark spice note that hits for you too, and probably some sweet maple cinnamon or something like that. A little bit of spice there.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
Caramel, vanilla, a little smoke. It says. I said juicy fruit chewing gum on the nose. Vanilla, pine, touch of cinnamon.
It's batch 5 is probably one of the more fruity of the double oaks that we've had. It's like it has a little more fruity notes than the first 4.
Okay, well, let's give it a taste. Cheers, gang. Oh yeah, yeah. Again, a lot going on here. I mean, kind of the fruity is there, but it's also kind of like a buttered rum in there too. I mean,
yeah, we get a lot of butterscotch in this one.
Yeah,
real nice there.
Yeah. And again, a soft, you know, a little bit soft, spicy finish. So yeah, it's good.
And this continues to open up too. This is something that I really enjoy about the whiskey world lineup in general, but especially the double oak. You'll sit there and it starts, to me, I start getting a lot more vanilla, and then it goes to vanilla pipe tobacco as it sits and continues to be exposed 10 minutes, 15 minutes into being poured. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
If you swirl it and blow off the alcohol, and you do that a few times, and then you take a sip, it actually just changes, and you're just right there in front of you. Super complex product, really nice.
I agree. There's definitely a lot going on there, which is always a good sign. The layering of flavors is always something highly desirable, and this definitely has it. And I do like, I mean, the finish, it just does, it sticks with you, kind of center palate. So it has, you know, it's got a good mouthfeel, kind of coats the mouth, and yeah, it makes for a great finish for sure.
Yeah, and for you know, and even which I appreciated about the Paragon too, you know, as you get into the higher proofs, you know, sometimes you can get that like huge bite that you're right for. But these, you know, both of these, you know, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty easy drinking for 100 proof. It's just like ready to drink. You don't always need to add water or an ice cube to it. Yeah. Agree with you, Melanie.
Yep, agree. Easy drinking, complex. Yeah. All right. Tell us a little bit about the next one. This is your barrel proof offering of your whiskey.
So this is the grandfather, right? This is what everything that we do is created off of. This is what I spent, 9 months of my life in my basement sourcing whiskeys from around the country while I had my 9-month-old strapped to my chest, stealing her Tylenol medicine dropper to pull different samples out of. So, yeah, I mean, I wanted to create a whiskey that again, having the benefit, the ability and the privilege to own a distillery, something that I wanted to drink. I wanted to create it off of exactly what my favorite flavor profile was, but I also took the time, and tasted it, depending on if I ate pizza, if I had a salad, or if I had tacos or a hot dog or whatever it was. I was night after night after night, I was blind tasting all of these different recipes that I was coming up with and trying to figure out which one consistently was hitting home for me, which one did I always want to kind of go back to and drink, especially at full proof. So I love full proof whiskeys because I feel it gives you the most freedom to do and to drink as you please. I love drinking neat. The 100 proof is my kind of ideal proof point of where I like to enjoy something neat. But with barrel proof, this product is smooth enough that I can drink it straight as it is at 116. Has that flavor profile depth to it as well. It continues to open up, and it's very complex, but it also holds up to a large cube. Again, it goes to, I have 3 little kids. So the routine is large cube, barrel proof whiskey wars, sit it on their end table in the bedroom, do songs and prayers, put the girls to bed, and then go sit in the chair and enjoy my whiskey while I do work emails as my daughters fall asleep. It's probably a horrible habit, but that's our routine. And it's after 5 minutes of sitting over that cube, it's perfect.
It's
So
perfect. Yeah.
It is the one of the things that we love about the World San Francisco Spirits Competition is that like Adam would be doing at blind tasting. That's how they judge all their spirits, right? And so this one is like good to even just like put in a lineup of like your favorite ones, right? And sort of mix them up and maybe have somebody like figure out which ones and to be able to find those distinct notes in this one. So on this one, like I'm hoping you guys can find some distinct notes after we smell and taste, and you'll be like, oh, I could pick that out of a lineup.
Okay. You got, I put in buttercream frosting, cinnamon. We got sweet tobacco and leather, creme brulee, chocolate, oak, cinnamon, fruit stripe gum. So yeah, that's some good.
Real pretty on the nose.
And this is
Good
a rye heavy mash bill too. I did not mention that and that was intentional. I was trying to do something that was way more focused on the rye because we're making the wheated bourbon. So I want the full intention was that these products could live side by side on the shelf, the bourbon that we make in-house and the rye whiskey or the rye heavy blend of whiskey wort that we create as well. So
Very nice. Well, let's give this one a taste, gang. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, I got to say, no heat at all. You're talking 116 proof, which is pretty stout. There's no heat there. I do get some of that rye spice on the end, but yeah, that's what I'm getting more so than any heat there. Big red gum, yeah, cinnamon, for sure. Yeah,
get like a ginger snap cookie is like a common thing that I kind of get.
Yeah.
And I agree. That's something that is always fascinates me. That like 116 proof, this is easily drinkable as is at 116 proof.
Very much so. Honey and cinnamon that grows finish, picks up some spice. Yep.
Yeah. We often get ginger or ginger snap, and sometimes a real sensitive palate will actually get a little bit of mint at the end as well. So sometimes just as it evaporates off your tongue and you sort of tap the roof of your mouth a little bit, it almost gets a little bit herbaceous. Pretty complex. Yeah.
Nice punch of heat, complex, long finish. Yeah, I agree. It does stick with you a long time, just perfectly though. Doesn't heat up. Yeah. Not hot to be hot. That whole thing. So yeah, very good stuff. Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming on, and please stick around at the end for the Q&A portion. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next up is Alex Hunnell of Black Button Distilling out of Rochester, New York. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Actually, I wanted to say to our friends at High Banks, go Bucks. I don't know if you guys know I'm from Columbus, Ohio, born and raised. So
let's go. Let's go.
Hey, I also forgot to mention, just like Vienna said that she went out to Justin's place. The first ever thing that I did at Distilling was go to Jason's class that he had up in Rochester.
I know he did that for a few years.
Yeah, and I saw him at ADI and I gave him a bottle of whiskey war. I was like, hey, thanks.
That's awesome.
That's
but
cool.
yeah, I was just at the game on Saturday. I was in Columbus with my family.
Dude.
So
nice. Yeah, that was a win.
that was all right. Now we got Wisconsin, but I should probably talk about Rochester, I guess, now that I live there. No, it's funny. I've been with Black Button since 2017. So this is my kind of first entry into the alcohol business. But Black Button at that point would have only been about 5 years in. So I'm hitting my 5-year mark in October as well. So we started out, Jason was, ironically enough, I know that Justin was saying, being in DC, Jason was actually down in DC for a while. He had been in political science. He had actually worked on the Hill as an intern, realized he did not want to be in the political side of things. So he moved off and ended up working for Paychex. He in college had kind of been dabbling with some home brewing, looking at kind of understanding some of the laws, realized he couldn't buy beer, but he could buy everything you needed to make beer. So he made, as he said, some of the worst beer you ever tried in college, but slowly but surely got a lot better at it. And then as he moved over into this Paychex company and started to look into the back end of some of the distilleries, the wineries, and the breweries around Virginia, Maryland, DC, found that there was a really interesting opportunity to take some of his passion for brewing and to bring that hopefully back into his hometown in Rochester. At the time, he thought, well, there's a lot of breweries in Rochester. And when we say a lot in 2011 or 2010, we're talking 7. Today, I think there's 40. So they're actually might have been a little bit for growth for breweries, but he decided, let me look at my other passion, which is really a love for bourbon. So he did the very logical thing, sold everything he owned, and then started going to Washington, to other distilleries, similar to what Adam was saying, go off and take some of these distilling classes. And the ones especially that would say, you know, hey, come and see if you want to be a distiller. And they tried really hard to turn him away, and he just never kind of got turned down from going after it. So moved in back to Rochester, moved in with his parents for a short period of time and started the distillery. And then did the other logical thing, which is to then move into the distillery and sleep on a cot for, I think, the first year or two, because at that point he was pretty much running the still. He was sales and distribution. His then girlfriend amazingly somehow stayed with him long enough to become his wife through all the insanity of watching stills while he caught a couple hours of sleep in between running the still. And then slowly but surely managed to build up the business, start to bring on some salespeople, grow in our industry in New York. And I think one of the really interesting parts of New York State is that we actually can do self-distribution in New York. Adam, I know in Ohio, you guys are definitely up against it when it comes to distribution and the state. Justin, I'm not as familiar with Washington, but I know North Carolina is pretty tough as well, Pete and Vienna. So we're pretty fortunate where we can actually, you know, I could throw a bunch of cases of bourbon in my car and go to my favorite liquor store and sell it right out of the trunk of my car. So that's a big advantage we have in New York State, which allowed us to bring on 9 sales reps to keep everything in-house, except for the actual trucking of product from Rochester down to New York City, for instance. So I think some of the pieces like that actually allowed us to keep a lot of the capital in-house, which allowed us to really continue to focus on how we want to make the whiskey. Unlike Adam, we actually decided to go that kind of step route. So we started making from grain glass, you know, 6-month stuff would go out, year would go out, year and a half would go out. At the time we're putting it out, we believe it's the best product that we can put out as it currently stands. Yeah. Unfortunately today, you know, now we're talking about stuff that's 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old. So totally different world when it comes up to what the bourbon is today.
And really being hands-on and you know, everything with you guys, right? All the way from grains to even cooperage. I mean, you guys are actively involved in. Don't you own some of the tree farms and stuff like that you guys harvest the trees from for your barrels?
So yeah, in 2019, we ended up purchasing a small farm property, and we're in the process of you know, doing some of the weather care for some oaks that were on the property, and eventually going to be making our own barrels and having, you know, 100% New York State grain glass bourbon that's also put into our own oaks that were grown on property. Yeah. It is not something that Jason would suggest. As he said, quarter sawing, you know, oaks staves on a weekend was not the most fun time he ever had, but it's going to make for some really cool bourbon once we can get it into those actual barrels. But we are fortunate enough that we have a great cooperage that's a couple hours away, Adirondack cooperage. Definitely some of the most beautiful barrels you can buy in the country right now that we can source from really locally and have those brought in right to the distillery from New York State. So we're very much about, you know, grains that come from an hour of our distillery. Our malting is done within 40 minutes of our distillery. The water comes from one of the Finger Lakes. Even actually, we're going to be moving next year into a space that's going to 4x the entire production opportunity. And we had to be very careful to make sure we stayed on the same water basin so we could actually have that same quality water to make sure the whiskey stayed consistent from when we move.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about visiting your distillery. What's that experience like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we're right next to a pretty large brewery for the Rochester area called Bourbon. So actually we rented the space next to their main production facility. So when you come in, we're right downtown. So we're considering ourselves an urban farm distillery. Farm distillery being what in New York State gives us the classification to be able to do the self-distribution, meaning we use 75% grain grown in New York, and then urban because we're right downtown Rochester. I mean, you come off the highway, you take a 5-minute turn left, and we're right there. So even when we move, we're only going to be moving 5 minutes difference from where we are currently. So we are going to stay with that idea of being right downtown Rochester, which was important to Jason because that's where he grew up. So he wanted to bring that distillery to Rochester, New York, and we were the first since Prohibition when we opened our doors.
Gotcha. Tell us a little bit about this bourbon whiskey coming in at 119 proof that we're getting ready to try.
So our cast strength bourbons, as we've gotten a little bit older, I got the full bottle here with the red label that we do. As we got up to age, we started to see the proofs were ticking up a tiny bit, as would be expected. But we were starting to really like that proof as it did tick up. Part of what we do today is that every cast strength blend that we're doing. I appreciate people talking about blending because we really believe in blending. even now to this point where we do a custom blending program for the marketplace that, you know, somebody can come in, blend their own 10 case version of our bourbon based on how we break down our barrels into different tanks that we consider to call like our flavor tanks. But the bourbon here is a blend for about 10 to 12 barrels in total. It's going to be at that 119 proof, but right on the nose, you know, you're going to get, I'm finding a lot more like vanilla cake kind of characteristics are coming out on the top. I think that in the past, you know, the wood got pretty predominant because we were using the smaller barrels, mostly 15 to 30 gallon. Right now, most of what's coming out, almost by 95% is all 30 gallon barrels. And since about last year, we've been only laying down 53s with some 53s that have been laid down probably since 2017 or 2018.
Gotcha. What are you thinking we're gonna catch on the taste here? Because we got a lot of leather and tobacco notes, dark cherry, oak, pine, leather, tobacco again. Yeah, barley. Okay. So
yeah, and that aligns really directly with the fact that it is a smaller barrel. So you're picking up a lot more of that oak character. Some of the oak tannins going to come in and play a lot heavier at that smaller cooperage. Even the 15s are even heavier in that. And some people are picking up a ton of tannin, a ton of really dark, smoky, kind of mature, musty oak, even when you get into that. On the palate here, I think you're going to pick up is definitely some of the darker fruit, touch of that tobacco. You might even pick up kind of a burnt citrus character. It's something I predominantly pick up in the mid palate whenever I'm tasting through some of our higher proof. But yeah, and then definitely a long warming finish, but you don't really taste, you don't feel the proof. You just feel that warming kind of character.
All right. Last one of the night. Let's give this thing a taste, gang. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, it starts out kind of fruity up front, kind of nice, soft fruits, kind of, I don't know, peaches or apricots or something like that. It warms up again, mid palate to back, and yeah, sticks with you a little. You do get a little of the oak in there, but you also get some caramels and some vanillas. So yeah, very nice.
And I think a lot of that comes out of the fact that, you know, we're doing a 20% wheat in the mash bill. So that's going to open up a lot more for that spice of the rye to play in. You're going to kick in the malted barley, seeing as we have and some people ask us actually why we have 11% malted barley and 9% rye. It's not scientific. It's purely based on the fact that's just how the bags of grain actually worked when we were setting up the mash. So literally, I mean, we had everything else kind of more planned out, but that's just the amount of bags we wanted to put into the mash bill to make sense early on when we were making our mash. I think originally we were 600 gallon. We moved up to 1,400 gallon, and then we're going to be 6,000 gallon. So we're going to go from 4 barrels a day to about 20 barrels a day once we move into this new location.
Wow, that's big. That's a big jump for sure.
Yeah, a lot more space we're going to need very quickly.
Yep. So you got almond, honey, brown sugar, great leathery feel, pleasant heat, sweet tobacco, honey on the finish. Very, very good stuff. And you've got a deal too for the ABV Network folks here in attendance, right? You got a $10 off if you order online, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the other side of what I do is the e-commerce. So I run our full online business as well. So if you guys do like it, we ship to as many states as our partner will allow. So definitely I would say go online and double check that, but we'd love to give you guys the opportunity to try it wherever you're at.
So you just go to Black Button distilling.com, or is that what your website is?
Yep, you can go right to Black Button Distilling. On there, we have our shop spirits, and you have the option to pick to ship to yourself.
Yeah. Your coupon code for your $10 off is Steve Akley 2022. That's STEVEAKLEY 2022. All caps on that, it looks like. So check it out. Sweet oak is noticeable. Peach spicy finish with black pepper. That's spot on, I'd say. Excellent. Well, really appreciate it, Alex. Thank you for coming on. And
absolutely, thank you.
There you go. Well, there are our 4 distillery representatives. Let's hear a round of applause for them. Great job tonight. And what we'd like to do next is open it up for questions. Let's have questions from the audience. You can open up your mics and feel free to ask one or all or any combination therein of our distillery representatives. Who has a question for our presenters tonight?
Question for Justin on the flavored whiskey. I thought whiskey was 80 proof or higher, or is that different for flavored whiskey? I'm unaware of that. I don't know.
In the flavored category for both flavored vodka, flavored gins, and flavored whiskeys, you can go down to 60 proof by federal law.
Gotcha.
Regular whiskeys, vodkas, and so on are 80 is the minimum.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Fair enough. What else you guys want to know?
All right, I have a question for all of the distillers. I think I picked up that at least some of you offer tours and tastings. Is that the case with everyone, or are some not available for that?
Southern Distilling is open 7 days a week for tours and tastings
Okay.
and cocktails.
All right. Sounds fun.
Yeah, similarly, High Bank is we do tours every week. We also have a restaurant, so we're open 7 days a week for a restaurant, cocktails and all that stuff as well.
Okay.
And Justin, we were in Gig Harbor a few years ago, and we visited the Heritage Distillery right across the parking lot from our hotel. It was very nice. We had some of the brown sugar bourbon and some of the other things.
Thank you. We have a new distillery in Tumwater, and so we are doing tours and tastings, cocktails there, and a new outdoor amphitheater is being built there for summer concert series.
Oh, that'll be nice. That's a good combination for sure. I'm sure that'll be helpful. And Black Button.
Black Button. Yep. Yeah, we're open Tuesday through Sunday. We're only open to 4 during the week, mostly for bottle pickups, but we have cocktails available as well. And then we do most of our tours on the weekend, but there's always, if somebody's coming in during the middle of the week, let us know. We're happy to take you back.
Okay. I have a question for our distillers other than Black Button, because we talked about online sales. Does anyone else have the ability to or a partner that sells online for them? So obviously we're people here from all over the country. So just want to find out if there's options available. Someone's listening here, interested or like what we tasted tonight, want to be able to buy a bottle. Is that a possibility? Justin, do you have anything like that?
HeritageDistilling.com. We will ship to you in some states, and then it's available on Drizzly and the other locations as well.
Okay. How about our team from Southern?
Southern Distilling Company is beginning a relationship with Reserve Bar. So with our Paragon wins, all 3 of those expressions will be available on Reserve Bar soon.
All right, great. And what about our team from High Bank?
Similar, we're starting a partnership with Reserve Bar, and we'll also be once we get into Michigan, we'll be able to ship to 30 states, which should be May of 2023.
And then also, if any of you Venmo me, I'll just mail you something out of my.
This is being recorded, but you might.
Well, the former lawyer didn't think that was funny. Everybody else thought that was funny, but he didn't laugh. It is funny. I'm not going to do that.
It's because the government is always listening. That's all.
Always listening.
That's the only reason I raise my eyebrows.
Yeah, always listening for sure. What else you guys want to know? Any other questions?
Yes, Southern. We had one of our local liquor stores, Chip, Steve, who's been on a couple of these.
Mm-hmm.
They had a rep in who had Southern, and I thought they had a bottle and bond product with them.
That's what this one we didn't want.
Oh, it is?
So the sample that you had was bottled and bond. So
Okay.
that's our bottled and bond Paragon.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember all that with the rep, but I did enjoy that one at the store that day.
Yeah. Great. Where are you guys located?
Indianapolis,
Okay. Well,
Indiana.
great.
Yeah.
Glad to know our Indiana reps are getting the word out and getting the product out. That's
Yeah,
good.
I think it's a new entry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like really new, like less than a month ago. So
Yeah.
good.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Spread the word.
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet.
We might go tasting at that liquor store.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Right.
Not a bad
Us-
thing.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
can I request we throw that weeded one in for whenever we do a weeder series tasting, best-
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
you need to do a Weeders.
More
sorry.
Weeders, okay. Yeah, maybe that's a project series, right? We like to do our project series. What is the best weeder? That would be pretty good. That'd be a fun one.
I got a question for Justin.
Sure.
And flavored whiskeys. There's a lot of people making comments, not a fan of it. The BSB, very good. This Cocoa Bomb, I'm impressed with.
Incredible. Yeah, very good.
Can you give us a hint? What's the next one rolling out? And also on the other side, for those of us who had a lot of bad flavored whiskeys, what's the worst one that you've come out of? Yeah, that you've not put on the shelf, but what's the worst tasting? And
So
what's
an
the
experiment
next one?
gone wrong, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
The worst one that I would not recommend that kind of defies logic, and we just were messing around, was a ghost pepper flavored whiskey, because when people are thinking about whiskey, they want smooth, not hot. And
Right.
so that is counterintuitive, but we tried it anyway. I would not recommend it as a mass produced product. In terms of next iterations, we've got a lot, but I am not going to make that choice. I'm going to let the consumer make that choice, because we use our 6 tasting rooms to test products on a very small scale and take real-time data feedback and analyze the data. So I'm not so in love with products that I will make that decision. We are beginning. So as I mentioned earlier, we have spent the last 10 years kind of running the business, all the while secretly making whiskey behind the scenes without talking about it. In other words, we didn't plant our flag and say, hey, we're going to make the best bourbon in the world, and then we'll see in 3 years. We wanted to wait and see what we could test and mess around with. And so we are getting ready now to release our first ever 100% focused single barrel releases. And we've got 8 different recipes, from high wheated bourbons to high rye bourbons to 100% rye whiskeys. Anybody who's messed around with rye to make 100% rye whiskey knows how challenging that can be. We have some really interesting 4 grains, and the samplings, the tasting notes we're getting from some of the really respected whiskey folks in the industry are heartening to us. And so we're going to be releasing those starting in October. And so if folks are interested in these single barrel releases, bottled, numbered, totally focused that way, they can go to heritagedistilling.com, jump on our email list. And we're very excited for this, because it's going to, we've never been known for playing in the same space like folks at Southern and Black Button and others in this super, super premium whiskey space. And we're excited to launch into that now. And so again, sign up on the email list and get in the queue.
Very nice. Good deal. What else you guys want to know? Other questions out there?
I will also note, Whiskey Rick, that the flavored whiskey that continues to defy logic for me are any of the peanut butter flavored whiskeys.
Yeah.
I still am kind of shocked at what we're seeing there. And then I don't know if you saw last week, but the banana flavored whiskey, Howler Head, just basically was sold for $100 million valuation. And I'm just, again, some of these flavors that are not natural in a whiskey mix kind of perplex me a little bit, but the consumer is telling us.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, you've got a winner with that cocoa bomb. That stuff is incredible. That is really nice, for sure. All right. Anything else? All right. One more round of applause for all of our distillery representatives, for Justin, Pete, and Vienna, for Adam and Rudy, and finally Alex. Great job tonight, gang. Thanks so much for being part of this fun evening, some great whiskey, and really appreciate you guys being part of the Flagship Whiskey series. We'll say goodbye for now, and I'll stick around, talk whiskey, anything like that. Our guests, you are free to stick around if you'd like, though you don't have to. Again, we like to respect your time. I think that's a big part of what we do. So say goodnight to our at-home audience. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all.
See ya.